Hello and welcome along to Clare FM's Sideline View. It's Derek Lynch with you for the next hour. Coming up on the show, we will look ahead to a brilliant occasion for Clare hurling as St Flannan's and St Joseph's Tulla go head-to-head in Pairc Chiosiog in the TUS Dr Harty Cup semi-final. We look forward to this weekend's All-Ireland Club hurling final through the eyes of a parent. We hear from St Joseph's Spanish Point after their brilliant win in the Munster Ladies Football Senior A semi-final. Details on how you can support the Clare senior footballers on the countdown to the National League. We'll have local soccer and greyhound focus all to squeeze in too. Now, of course, the big highlight this weekend is at 12:30 in Zimmerbeim at Pairc Chiosiog on Saturday afternoon. St Flannan's versus St Joseph's Tulla. One or the other will be in this year's TUS Dr Harty Cup final. We'll get the views from both sides of the coin. We're delighted to have Tommy Guilfoyle, who'll cover the St Joseph's angle for us, and we can go deep inside St Flannan's to Jamesy O'Connor to get the feeling for what things are like there. Jamesy, we're speaking here on Friday afternoon. Excitement in the school, can you describe it to us?
Yeah, I mean, look, I had an economics class before lunch with Graham Ball and Colm Daly and Rory Ralph and a few more of the panel. So, yeah, look, I think they're looking forward to it. There's a few more of them in the alleys just for lunch, pucking the ball. And, yeah, you get this sense around the place that, yeah, look, it's a big game. Look, there's lots of interest in the school. There'll be a big crowd there tomorrow. And look at both sides that are 6 minutes away from the Harty final, and it's still, Derek, I mean, I played in one a long time ago, but it still has retained that same status amongst the secondary school kids all over Munster. And it's a huge competition. It's a competition with massive history and tradition, and it's just brilliant that the two Clare schools have got this far. And obviously, a few of our lads had the disappointment of coming up short. We were beaten by 3 points by Thurles last year. Harry Doherty, the two Macs, Graham Ball, Darragh Ball, they all played some part in that final last year, and I'm sure they're keen to get back. So yeah, huge interest, and I can only imagine the interest that's in Tulla as well, and it's just brilliant as well that it's in the park. I think there'll be a big crowd there, and I think it's set up very, very nicely.
And Tommy, when you take it in this maybe 6-year block from 2020 to 2026, St Flannan's and Tulla met in that quarter-final. St Flannan's went on to win it. Tulla then go on to win their historic title. St Flannan's, as Jamesy said, beaten last year. And here they are now both back into a semi-final. It's been very, very strong for both teams, or both schools, I suppose, in that period.
It has, Derek, yeah. And I suppose, look at it in an overall Clare hurling context, I think, it puts underage hurling in Clare, in a very positive position. There's lots of players on both sides who have, represented the county with great distinction. They're only starting off in their careers, but, as Jamesy alluded to, this is really, really a big game in schools hurling. Now, look at Flannan's have all the tradition, all the folklore down through the years. For me, I think, the important thing from a Tulla point of view is that, after winning that Harty Cup, historic Harty Cup a couple of years ago, I suppose, would that be a once-off? And for me, I think, the legacy of that winning, has really, really powered the Tulla school into a strong position. Lots of great work being done in all schools. So I think, it is a reflection on where Clare hurling is.
And James, if we follow up on that point of people meeting lads that they know very well, does that great angle of Tommy Corbett being a former winning captain with Flannan's, and his own young fella will be in the engine room for Tulla tomorrow. So there's just lovely little storylines right across this all over the place.
There is, and Station Knowles, who's Micheál Vaughan's mother, teaches in Flannan's. And my sister-in-law, Olivia O'Connor, teaches in Tulla. She's Thomas O'Connor's mother, you know what I mean? So there's, as you mentioned, obviously, Tommy Corbett, I won a Harty with Tommy in 1990, and obviously Captain Flannan's to Harty and Ireland colleges in 91. And I'm sure Tommy, in a way, would love if Matthew had gone to Flannan's. But listen, that only adds to it. And what a player he is. I mean, Clooney won the minor A, beat Bearfield in the final a couple of years ago, and I thought he was head and shoulders the best player on the pitch. And obviously Jerry O'Connor was a big part of that as well. Key Max at his cornerback, and obviously the Clooney lads will have the Max and Pat Finran on the Isaac Castle on the other side. So that doesn't happen very often, Derek, and obviously that just adds to the mix. And I was actually talking to Holly Vaughan's mother at 11 o'clock, and she passed some comment to her the other day I think at the dinner table, and he took her up on it. So yeah, it all adds to it. It all adds to it, and as look at as Tommy said, Terence Fahey in particular and Tomas Gilly, I think, have done unbelievable work in Tulla, and that this isn't just today or yesterday or last year. Terence has been, as I said, at the forefront, and Tomas with him, in terms of the massive amount of work that they have put in and the hours that they have put in, and that's from first year right through. And they've taken Tulla to a level where they're now competing with the top schools in Munster, and he has done Clare hurling some service, and I think that is to be acknowledged. And obviously he's got his Whitegate clubmate Brendan Bugler, obviously over Flannan's, and those two lads know each other inside out, and so that again just is another, I suppose, element that's there, Derek. But yeah, there's so many little subplots and so many little sideshows that you could talk about. But at the end of the day, it's what happens between the four lines at 12:30 tomorrow, and obviously there's a huge prize at stake and serious opposition waiting in the final. The two tip schools obviously go at it as well, so it's a big step tomorrow, and obviously you can't win it unless you're in the final. But both of these schools will still earn it if whoever gets through to win it all out.
Yeah, it's on in the Pairc, but I think there might have been half thinking of Whitegate being offered as a venue given the connection of the two managers, but no, I think that the Pairc is the place for it. Looking at the semi-final form lines, Jamesy, is it a similar enough one in that both kind of had to go down to their bootstraps for a finish and won games with a real good head of steam for a finish?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm less aware of how Tulla fared or whatever, but from Flannan's perspective, I mean, they again, they were 6 points down at half time, not playing well, no intensity, and go back to round one. They had a 10-point deficit, I think, at one point against Nina in round one. So they have given and coughed these leads up and dug themselves into holes. I suppose the positive is that they've been able to fight their way out of it. Now, obviously, they to get the draw against Nina in round one was huge given the position that they were in, but certainly at half time, it didn't look pretty good against Templemore the last day. But as you said, look at they found a way. I think the subs off the bench made a difference, and that could be maybe a big factor tomorrow as well. But I think look at, like, you can't afford. I mean, Terence, if you give Terence Fahey coach team a 6-point lead, you're facing a real uphill battle, because tactically, Terence will, you'd imagine, lock the shop and make it tight and hard. And this time of the year, and I know the Pairc and underfoot conditions will be better than most pitches, but scores are harder to come by. And it's likely to be a lower scoring game will be the case if these teams are playing on the top of the ground. So I think the start is going to be really important, and certainly Flannan's, as I said, can't afford to make the slow starts that have certainly not helped their cause in some of the earlier matches, and particularly in that semi-final.
Tommy, what do you see as the key areas in this one?
Look, I suppose from both teams, probably we're all expecting hopefully a classic, but the fact that the players and managers and everyone knows each other so well, and again, look, at semi-finals are there to be won. So, we will all hope for a great hurling game, but this will be a dour struggle. And I just think that, from what I know and what I can see, Flannan's would be the physically bigger team overall. Now on the Tulla side, there's main players, in O'Donnell at full forward and the centre back Ryan Hayes. But when you look at the Flannan's forwards, they're big and pacey. Harry Doherty, Ralph, and I just wonder what Flannan's will do. Will they start Tom O'Connor, or will they use him as an impact? But from a Flannan's point of view, they put up a nice score, the Leicester, but I think they would have been disappointed. They missed a lot of chances. I think they had something like 15 wides or something like that. So they have that potential to create chances. It's about scoring. And from a Tulla point of view, look at, the last Matthew Corbett, got them over the line with a lot of frees. And again, Flannan's will be well aware to that. So, but I think, the the fact that it's in Cusiog Park will lend itself to be, a fairly open game. The size of the pitch, the standard of the pitch. The last day in Kilmallock, Kilmallock was a dogfight there. Now Tulla will want to make it a dogfight, and I think that as Jamesy has alluded to, if Flannans give Tulla a start, I think that they may be fighting, coming from behind, because Tulla will be out to keep it nice and tight. The longer they're in the game, the better chance that they'd have. But you would just think, with the firepower potentially that Flannans have, that if they click into gear, it could be the difference. And at this time of the year, physical presence and ball winning ability will come into it.
And I'm not going to put Jamesy on the spot, Tommy, by asking him this, but it's obvious to raise the point of Derek Kennedy. If he's available or not, that could be a big swinger, because I think this fella's a diamond.
They got through the semi-final after without him as well. But I think they'll want their best 15 starting, or maybe their best 18, 20 players. And he is a key player. He is adult experience. And I suppose when you look down through both teams, a lot of them have club adult experience from last year. But, Flannan more so. But yeah, Kennedy, he is that versatile. He is that player that, that real hard worker and grafter, and, well able to hurl. So I'm sure they'll be hoping if he can start it, they will play. He'll have some point to play in it.
And just finally, Jamesy, on an overall developmental sense, we know that the winners tomorrow have 2 more games at least, the Harty, and then they go on into the Crow Cup series as well. So, the more high quality games our young starlets can get, the better. And that has been an upward curve, hasn't it?
It has, Derek. Yeah, and this is a big game tomorrow, and it's a big game for the lads. And there's huge interest. And I think you look at Clare. I think after the winter now, there's that appetite to get back out and get games. And the fact that it's on the park as well. I think it's a fitting venue for it. So yeah, the Harty final, the Harty medal is one of those medals that I treasure. That every secondary school that's going to one of these schools that are competing in this competition want, and only 4 teams now can win it. And as you said, we lost the final last year, and we maybe didn't pick ourselves up in time, and we probably could have ended up back in the All-Ireland final, and another crack at Thurles. And I suppose it's a regret from our lads that maybe we didn't recover. So, but I think nobody's looking beyond tomorrow, and as Tommy said there, Derek Kennedy is a massive loss for Flannans, and he's. At best, I'd say 50-50. I don't think he'll start. The question is, do you risk him the type of injury? He had a serious hamstring injury, but he's certainly on the way back and edging ever closer. So it's a big call that the lads have to make. But I think overall, as Tommy said earlier, look at Clare hurling and underage hurling in general is in a good place. There's an awful lot of massive work been done at the clubs, and obviously, the schools, unless the work has been done before we get our hands on them, we're not going to be competitive. So that's a testament to our squads and our structures, going back to primary levels. So hurling in a good place, and we seem to be, I won't say punching above our weight, but certainly getting the best out of the underage talent we have, and long may that continue. Yeah, really looking forward to it. Live commentary of the game here on Clare FM, thanks to Cooney's Home and Hardware on Main Street in Tulla from 12:30 tomorrow. Tommy and Jamesy, thanks very much indeed for that. Now it is, of course, the weekend of the All-Ireland Senior Club Finals, both hurling and football. We have clear interest in both, albeit not the banner colours represented. Evan Talty, of course, coach with St Bridget's, him of Clonmurray Bricken fame, and also with Loughrea, just over the border from us. We have plenty of Clare involvement there with John Conlon and Michelle tied up in it as well. And I suppose here in Clare FM we have a nice little local link as well, where our own head of sales, Mike Ryan, is of course a Loughrea native. His son Jamie will be lining out. So it's a very, very exciting time. Mike, firstly, with your Loughrea hat on, with your father's hat on, to be heading to Jones's Road and watching himself lining out, what's that going to be? What do you think that's going to feel like?
I presume it'll be a nervous enough experience somehow or another. Looking forward to the course, and he's been involved with the Loughrea senior team now for over 12 or 13 years, and there've been a lot of very competitive games and quarterfinals, semi-finals, finals, and you get used to it. There was a number of years ago I was manager of the team for a couple of years, and that was nerve-wracking too, because you're responsible for the whole team, but you're hoping that he'll deliver enough to, help the team, and that's what we'll be hoping for again next Sunday. So really looking forward to it. There's a great buzz about the place, and it's unique. There's a lot of people who don't get a chance to play in Croke Park in an All-Ireland final of any shape or form, and it's very important, and it's very exciting for a group of lads who grew up in national school, secondary school together, and meet for coffee every other day together and socialise together, and now they're getting their chance to play in the biggest day of the club year.
And we know St Thomas is dominating Galway for so many years, and the breakthrough for Loughrea last year in a lot of ways, and getting close to this point but not quite getting there. Is there a different mood around the parish now because of last year's experience?
Well, the experience of last year certainly won't be lost on them. As we left Thurles last year after narrowly losing to Nafina, you were just hoping that our opportunity wasn't gone. And it's a big ask to get through a Galway Championship again and get back to this stage. And there were a couple of occasions in the Galway Championship this year, particularly even half time in the quarter final against Clare Bridge, to be a brave man that said Loughrea are going to win this game, and they showed serious resolve and serious character, to dig out a result in that second half. And since that they really kicked on, and I thought they were very impressive in the county final. And they were certainly, while they only won by a point, but St Thomas's have been some team over many years, and they knew how to win. And while Loughrea, in many ways, you felt looking out of the game that they should have won easily, it was only 1 point at the final whistle. So that certainly did them good. And the last day, I thought, after a nervy enough first half when we didn't take all the chances that we got against Loughneel, we did, I suppose, as the game wore on, get into a bit of a flow, started taking our opportunities a little bit better, started, our own game. We imposed it on the game we wanted to play, and moved the ball around well, and finished out comfortable winners, to be fair. So we're going in a good place into Sunday. There's no question about that. No doubt about it. Ballygunner will be hot favourites. They've been so successful in Waterford, not always delivered in Munster, but still have won their All-Ireland against Ballyhale a couple of years ago. So that experience will help them. There's no question about it. And their game the last day against St Martin's, which we would have looked at a number of times since, it was a game that in the early stages you could have said it's going to go anyway, and I suppose it came down to the fact that St Martin's didn't take all their chances. Very unlucky not to have got what I would have considered a legitimate goal in the first half of that game, which would have put them 5 points up. Who knows in what way the game would have gone. They also, uncharacteristically missed chances in that game, both from frees and from play, that they'd normally score. So while there was 8 or 9 points between the teams at the final whistle, not so sure that was really what was between the teams and play. But I thought that the one thing was that St Martin's did match Ballygunner's work rate, and Ballygunner really, when they had to dig in and work hard, they did, and found the guys in the scoring positions, like lads like Desi, etc. And I thought a guy that had a big impact in the game when he came on was Mark Hartley, and I would say that they'll be finding it very hard to leave him out from the starting lineup on Sunday.
When you think about experience and you talk about the journey in the county for both teams, we know Ballygunner realistically are probably aiming to peak in the Munster Championship. The level of competition in Waterford is beyond deplorable, really. And then you look at the Galway Championship and how attritional that is, and how battle hardened and maybe battle weary at times you are coming through that. That's an interesting dynamic to see how that'll play out. It
is, for sure. There are any one of 5, 6, 7 teams that could in any given year win the Galway Championship. And Loughrea were comprehensively defeated in their group game by Craughwell. Had a narrow enough escape in our very first game against Kilkenarden, beat Killimore Daly comprehensively enough, and then gained momentum as we went on. But you could easily not be in the knockout stages of the championship. You could be gone out of it. That's the way Galway is. So I suppose it will help us in many ways. We had a 7-week break, which was probably a little bit concerning leading into the Loughneel game from our county final. And but they hit the ground running, and you know, albeit maybe over enthusiastic with some of our tackles in the first half, and we had picked up a few yellow cards, which we'll have to be mindful of, you know, on Sunday, that doesn't happen again, because, you know, once you're on a yellow card, you know, you have to pull back a little bit as you go on, then you can't afford to get a second one, and I suppose, but all in all, I think Ballygunner come through Waterford so easily, and they didn't have, I suppose, a terribly competitive game, I suppose, with the exception maybe of the Limerick game in Munster. You know, they were comprehensive winners of the Munster final, and the last day was a hard game. Now, they had a hard game the last day against St. Martin's, so that will certainly have helped them, there's no question about that. And I don't think, you know, and they know what it's going to take to dig out a result on Sunday, because they've done it before, and they dug it out the last time that they won it. You know, it was a game, it was a score in injury time. I think one of their subs came on and took a shot from about 30 yards. Some would say maybe a bit fortuitous, but at the same time they won the All-Ireland club title.
Yeah, that famous Harry Ruddle goal.
Yes,
I think, yeah,
exactly.
That'll live long in the memory. Yeah. And like on that, the Croke Park factor, like I think anybody that watched both semi-finals back to back was horrified by the condition of the pitch in Parnell Park, and everybody was waxing lyrical about the condition of the field in Simple. And you speak there about the yellow cards, like, is that just simply because the slowness of the pitch, and I suppose the opportunity for contact, that'll be lessened dramatically in Croke Park because of the size, because of the surface, and because of everything else?
Well, I'd be expecting everything to happen much faster on Sunday than it was happening in the semi-finals, and even the game in Thurles. And while the pitch looked exceptional, it was heavy. There was rain and heavy rain during that game, so it did slow it down. Like, it was a lovely day in Parnell Park while the game was on, but the condition of the pitch wasn't great. So I suppose, I think Croke Park will suit Loughrea, to be quite honest. I do. A lot of very good hurlers, a lot of pace in that team, and I think they're slick when they're in full flow. They're slick, so I have no worries about Croke Park not suiting us. You know, it's just whoever wants it the most, and it won't be just about hurling, or it won't be just about slickness. It'll be about graft and hard work and winning dirty ball, because that's teams are so fit now. There's a lot more rucks and stuff like that. Even in Croke Park, there's more rucks. You know, so it's whoever wants it bad enough. That's you know, and take their chances and avoid giving away, because Pairc Mahoney will punish you if you give away frees. So if you can avoid that, then I think you have a great chance. And
everybody speaks about the way Ballygunner set up, and the narrative seems to be, should we know how Ballygunner play the game? They're very structured. You can telegraph it almost. But can that work against them then as well? That they're not really open to trying something different. So you can have your plan going into it, and they seem like the kind of team that if they change the way they go, it could probably upset them more than the way you've planned for them.
Well, looking at the first half, and I have looked at it a few fairly intensely, I suppose, for want of a better word, and I felt that, you know, St. Martin's really got in their faces, and they did play defensively in the first half. St. Martin's did, and what I liked about St. Martin's was when they did win back possession, they weren't rushing it up the field. They actually, you know, played it around a bit until they got it to the guy that was in the best position, but he didn't deliver it until he felt he was delivering it to the best advantage of the inside forwards. Now, a couple of times, because Ballygunner centre back Philip Mahoney played very deep, he cut out, you know, 4 or 5 of those that didn't make their destination. So I suppose, and when they win back possession, they don't deliver it until they have their man moving into space, and they're usually the corner forward. The last day, Mikey Mahoney, he came, nearly played behind his midfield in front of his, allowing Philip Mahoney to sit off. So he was, and then when they had possession, then he drove forward as kind of the guy you could pop out a ball to. So it's just for. But having said that, a lot of teams are playing that way as well. You know, Loughrea play a bit of that at times. They mix it up. So it'll be and a lot of teams are coughing up the puck out now as well, and they're sitting deep and they're inviting a cornerback on with the ball and try and mop it up when it gets down the other side, and then set up their own attack. So the Ballygunner way is a way that a lot of teams are trying to play. Ballygunner, when they're on song, play it well, and it's up to us to impose our game. Now, we have good hurlers, we have good guys that can shoot, we have guys with pace, we have guys with power inside. So, we've a lot going for us too. So it'll be an intriguing game, there's no question about that.
Without prying too much, Mike, into your weekend plans, are you planning for an early set out on Saturday, or what way is it looking?
Look, sure, we'll head off around 9, half 9, and we'll get up there in time. And
you won't make the night of it? You'll sleep in your own bed Saturday night, will you?
I will, yeah. I like to be fresh on the day of a match like that. Mightn't be too fresh on Monday, but we'll certainly I will enjoy the day as well. It's, I suppose, you're going up there as a supporter and you're going up there as a parent, and it's a bit, you're nervous for them that that everything will go well for them, and that they'll contribute in a positive way, and that injury stays away as well, because in our case, like Jamie's had a couple of very tough years with a very serious hand injury a couple of years ago against Antrim, and maybe lesser guys might have said, I'll pack this up, because he was a very bad thumb injury, and it didn't look like he'd ever be able to hurl after that. But time is a great healer, mentally and physically, and here we are, and it's great.
So what you're saying is, if the first sideline can go over for him, it might settle him into it.
Well, look at sidelines. I've mixed views about sidelines. He has had a good record with sidelines, but at the same token, it's not that easy to hit sidelines on that pitch in Croke Park.
Yeah.
Not like you can't pull up as
the
many.
one in Parnell set up lovely. You could hear the thud through the telly.
Well, you can, because you can set it up nicely for yourself. Not as easy in Croke Park, and they're great when they go over. But when if they go wide and out of play, you're giving a free puck out to the opposition. So sometimes you're better off to try and keep them in play and get them to maybe somebody that can come onto them and pop it over. Than wonderful. They ride their over stuff when they go over, but if they don't. So I noticed there isn't as many people trying them, to execute them now. Everybody seems to be looking around to get this fella coming on to the quick ball maybe and pop it over. I think, we'll see. You might only get one of them in the whole hour, so it mightn't be a make or break for the day anyway.
Imagine if it came in the 63rd minute when the sides were level.
Well, no, that's the stuff of dreams, isn't it? Provided you score it, of course. But the most important thing is, as a team, that they perform, and they have a great subs bench. That's one thing that they do have this year. They have a very, last semi-final, every fella that came on contributed so well. Neil Keary came on with 20 minutes to go and he scored 3 points from play. Neil has been involved in this panel for about 13, 14, 15 years, and he's still hurling as well now as he ever did, so when you fellas like that, even if they don't start and come in, straight away they're going to settle into the game straight away, because Neil played there as a Galway minor, and so the Croke Park is not going to be anything strange for him.
Just finally, there is an elephant in the room in all of this. I don't know if you'd call it Cullen Clean shaped or Johnny Murphy shaped, but to some class of a shape anyway. It's an unmerciful pity for a young fella to be missing out on a day like this, and I don't know, there's mixed views on it. We've no conclusive footage of it, but you're hearing different stories from different people. But jeez, I just wonder, in the day it was and the time of the game it was, would a yellow have done? But for Cullen, I guess it is heartbreak.
Of course it's heartbreak, and it's heartbreak for the rest of us as well, to be quite honest with you, because Cullen Clean is not in any way a dirty player, and it was two guys pulling and shoving, trying to, they were on the ground, they got up, there's no evidence to say that he did or he didn't, and talking to the Schlockneil management afterwards, some of the lads were saying it was ridiculous that 2 yellows at most, if you were going to be at that time of the game, and we may not even be in Croke Park on Sunday were it not for some of the performances, and I won't even say some of the performances, but many of the performances by Cullen right throughout the year. He was immense in that middle of the field, he was, and we played games in Galway, semi-final and final, in horrendous conditions, and Cullen He was pulling out dirty ball. He was delivering good ball to his forwards. He was popping out ball to guys off his shoulder. He was getting scores himself. Like, he's only 19 years of age, but you'd think that he's been there for years. And he's certainly going to be a guy that's going to be playing for Galway in the very near future. There's no doubt about that. So at the moment he's not available, but it's early yet.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, hopefully he'll be looking back on a year of an All-Ireland title, and I'd say, Mike, somehow it'll be Wednesday or Thursday of next week before we'll see you.
Wednesday at the earliest, Derek, yeah.
As it should be. Mike, enjoy the weekend and thanks for chatting to us.
Thank you very much.
Now you're welcome back to the show. Well, it has been another positive day for Clare ladies football as St Joseph's Spanish Point have set up their chance to win a first Munster Senior A Schools title since 1997. They beat Mercy Mountauk of Tralee by 4-7 to 11 points, with the goals coming from Ellie Hanrahan, Emily Shannon, Michaela Sexton and Aveen Ryan. After the game, Clare FM's Derek Dormer spoke with St Joseph's coach Emer Considine.
There was an amazing second half performance from 1 to 18. The subs that we brought on, everyone made such a difference. We were in the game at half time, even though the scoreline didn't show it, and we missed 2 or 3 goal chances, and we really had, I suppose, the upper hand on them, even though we weren't playing very well in the first half. But it was the response in the second half where they came out and they just fought for everything. They tackled, they came out with balls they shouldn't have won. The aggression, the determination, the teamwork that they showed in the second half was just, you can't coach that stuff. That's just what the girls are made of, and that's just why they have been so successful for the last couple of years.
Aveen Ryan gets a yellow card for 10 minutes, but however it was 16 minutes before she was allowed back on the field. When she comes on, outside of the boot, whirled into the top corner, it was a special moment.
She was coming back with a vengeance, come back onto that field. She had missed 2 goals earlier on in the game, and I said third time lucky, and she came on and she absolutely roofed that ball. There was no way it was going anywhere but into the net. She's a captain for the reason. She's joint captain Michaela, and the two of them are such leaders on the field. And look, you can drop the head when something like that happens with a yellow card, but it's how you respond to it, and she responded well, the team responded well to it, and we kicked on, and other girls stood up when one of our captains was off the pitch, and that's exactly what you want, whether you're a second year or a sixth year. They're all leaders on the field there. It's
been some journey for Spanish Pine. 2 years ago, C champions, last year B champions, and now into an A final. That's some trajectory, Emer.
Yeah, look, I suppose it's building, and there's a lot of girls here that didn't get game time last year, that have been on the ranks, have been on the sidelines, looking at what it takes to be a champion. And those girls like Anya O'Keefe stood up today, Ida O'Connor stood up today. The girls that hadn't been playing the last couple of years, but that got their chance this year, and they've just made such a massive difference. There's Michaela Sexton, the young girls, like Simone has just been outstanding for the last 3 years, and she's still only a third year. Like, you need to, there's the quality that we have coming through the ranks, and it's building over the years because they are on the same blueprint, they're on the same idea, they all know what success takes, and together, put them all those girls together, and you have a quality outfit like this.
And finally, it's not only a huge result for Spanish Pine, West Clare, but all of Clare LGFA, isn't it, Emer? I mean, to be in a Munster minor schools A final, that's huge. It augurs well for the future.
It is, and I suppose I've said it numerous times that the success of ourselves, Kildare are doing well as well at the moment, and Kalash over the last couple of years, it's driving on the underage, and we can see it with the minors going in last year and the squad that are coming through, and I suppose it's playing at these high grades and these high intensity games with tactics and structures and nerves and breaking points that I suppose prepares you for bigger games when you go out to play for the county.
Yeah, huge congratulations to everybody involved there, and they will of course find out their final opponents on Monday when Middleton take on Clonmel, and the final of that is set for Saturday, January 31st. Now, delighted to have Colm Collins on the line as not just the countdown on to the opening round of the National Football League, but also this Sunday night, a very good opportunity for you to lend your support to the Clare senior footballers for the 2026 campaign as the annual Poker Classic is being held. He's with us to give us more details. Colm, always a big night. I know you often benefited from it in your time as Bonaghdor, and it's an event that has been growing from strength to strength.
Yeah, it has. It really has, and tremendous credit due to Michael Talty here, who drives it. But I'd like to, in particular, thank the committee, the Temple Gate, the clubs, the squads, and the squads management for making it such a great success. Like last year, over 200 people played in it. There was over 17,000 given out in prize money. It's a real success, and every bit of money that comes into it goes to the squads, the different Clare football squads. So it's a great event, and we only run the Foot Supporters Club only run really 3 events in the year. That we run a sponsored player in the Golf Classic and the Poker Classic, and that's it. And what you call it, as I said, this has been a tremendous success.
And that collective buy-in, I suppose, it means that there's real committed people behind it.
Well, we've got a fantastic committee, Derek, and in this case, because it's the pokers led by Mike Talty, who has done a tremendous job. And obviously it's on Sunday evening, on the 18th of January in the Temple Gate, and fantastic facility there, everything's top class, and it starts at 6 o'clock sharp. I suppose one thing for poker players, just to remind them, it's straight poker. It's a straight poker game, so they'll know what that means.
Yeah, there's plenty of them out there in the circuit. I suppose it's a week, Colm, that we saw the breakdown of inter-county spending, and while people don't like often to talk nuts and bolts, I suppose all this funding is badly needed because I suppose costs are spiralling.
The costs are spiralling. I suppose, the county board pick up what they should pick up, and there's lots of other little things that can make a massive difference. And the supporters club were immense in my time when I was there, and we're fully committed to supporting Paul in every way we can, so that he'll want for nothing, so that for all the little bits and pieces of extras that he needs, that we'll be able to give him. And there are 600 tickets sold already for this, Derek, and as I say, you can also it's €25 a head. You can also pay at the door, which means that anybody who shows up on the night will get a game. So that we're very hopeful of a very successful night.
Fantastic stuff. Well, check out any of the social media there. You'll find all the details of the Templegate Hotel on Sunday evening to support Clare football if you can. And it's timely, Colm, because obviously it'll be less than a week by the time Sunday evening comes before the lads will be heading up the road to Newry. It's a road you travelled many times. A tough start on the road.
It is a tough start, but listen, it is what it is. You just prepare and get going. I think that Clare have footballers to match anybody in the country, and I think that there's nothing to fear. I think that there's a lot of counties would give their right hand to have some of our players. So I wouldn't be in any way. I think that if we perform, we'll get a result in Newry, and I think to set us up really well for the National League. Yeah, and
it does feel like, Paul, it's quite a strong hand to choose from. Maybe the strongest hand that any manager has had in a couple of years, with the boys that have come back and the lads that have recovered from injury. So that's lending itself to the optimism, I think.
It is, yeah. I mean, I sincerely believe that we have a tremendous group of players here, and that some of them coming into their prime, and I think that it's a tremendous opportunity. And we've got a great man in charge. Obviously, Paul is excellent, so that it's all positive. And as I said, if things go right for us and we get a result, it'll really set us up.
And also a new captain named this week in the form of Cillian Rowan, continuing that strong tradition of that great footballing name in Innis Diamond. I suppose a fantastic leader to row in with the lads.
Then nobody is more deserving of this than Cillian. I mean, he was by a country mile the best player in the football championship last year. I felt he put in some tremendous performances, and I think that he has been getting better and better. And he has had a tough time with injury, but I think it's one of the key things for this group that Cillian stays injury free, and it's a tremendous appointment. I couldn't agree with it more, and I think that he'll be a tremendous leader going forward. Tremendous leader.
That is for sure, and the very best of luck to him and the lads as they prepare for the trip to Newry next weekend. Colm, thanks for that. We will, of course, hear from the camp in a little bit more detail on next week's show. We're back shortly here on Sideline View. We're turning our attentions now to soccer here on Sideline View, where another big weekend awaits, both on the domestic and indeed provincial front as well, which we'll get into in a while. But Jim Madden with us to both look ahead and look back, Jim, as well. And I know we previewed some big games at the top of the table last week, and my God, that shape of the table has certainly tightened up again. Talk about drama. A draw between Tulla and Newmarket, and a 5-4 thriller. Bridge coming out of Rosslevin with a brilliant victory there. It has really made things quite interesting.
It has indeed. I mean, I was at the game in Tulla, and I thought that was as good a game as I've seen for quite a long time. Extremely competitive. Neither side wanted to lose it. They defended very well, both of them, and it just shows you as well how well organised they are, that really their chances were few and far between. The other game was played in fairly poor conditions, and I didn't travel to it because I felt getting wet isn't good for me. But you couldn't take your eye off it, it appears, from talking to people that were at the game. And of course, near the end, when it did look as if it was going to be a 4-all draw, the Bridge popped up and got their 5th goal to take the 3 points that were incredibly important to them.
Absolutely. Well, it brings it right down the stretch, and I suppose it takes the wiggle room for dropping points from those top 4 in particular really off the table now. So a very interesting closing to the season ahead. This weekend, though, we're having our Munster Junior Cup representatives, and it's a repeat of that famous FAI Junior final as well in St Michael's and Newmarket. These two teams know each other well. 7 o'clock start in Cool Park for this one, which I suppose for Newmarket, okay, they've played a couple of games under lights and they'll probably train under them as well, but it does add a new dynamic and give a different feel to a big fixture like this, doesn't it?
It does indeed, and I think it's a very exciting fixture because there is a great history between the two clubs. And of course, as you said, they're the FAI Junior Final, which none of us will ever forget, inside in Limerick in Jackman Park. Both teams have gone through a little bit of a change over the last, and brought in some new players and that. But Newmarket still have the core of a side that really is going to be very hard to beat in my book down there. Shane Cusick, Owen Hayes, Dave McCarthy, the Cullinans and that. So I think there'll be a very big crowd at it. The facilities in Michael's are always top class. The pitch is immaculate there always because they mind it very much. And I'd imagine as well that their lights are of the top standard. So a very important game down there. I watched Michael's last year, Derek, in the FAI when they were beaten 3-1 by North End, who had beaten Avenue as well, if you remember. And I just thought they've gone off the boil a little bit, and their dependence on some of their better players, they've lost their edge and pace, and that Jimmy Carr, whom a player that I've admired a lot over the years, just didn't look to be the same. But this year they have added a number of players. They've added Willie Arnshaw, who played with Treaty and then went to Ashling and Acotty and has now returned to Tipperary. He's from Cashel and that. They have also Daniel O'Dwyer, who had a bit of experience in the League of Ireland. They've also added a player that they are very excited about down there, Jake French Davis. God, there's a great name, Derek, from Clonmel Town. Now, he's a winger, and they'll find that he has tremendous pace. He's very, very good, and that'll be well worth watching. And then they have added a new goalkeeper as well, Adam Gallagher, who played League of Ireland at, I think, under 19 level, and another player, Luke Ryan, whom I don't know too much about, but he has played a little bit of League of Ireland as well. So it should be a cracking game of football. I would imagine a good few people from around Newmarket and County Clare will travel down 7 o'clock. It's about an hour from Shannon. So all we want is a nice, pleasant evening with not too cold and definitely no rain.
Right, you're not asking for much there in January, so we'll see how the weather gods smile on you on that one. Let's move on then to Sunday, Jim. I know there's a couple of youths games there on Saturday, but in the FAI Under-17 Cup on Sunday, a short trip enough for Bridge United. Their underage juggernaut of the last couple of years, we know how good that's been going. They go into Mungret.
Yes, indeed. Now, Mungret would be one of the teams that, or one of the clubs, I should say, that has always had a strong underage system. Players coming through the ranks there, and they have quite a big population out around there as well. But the Bridge, as you said, have been very, very consistent over the last number of years. They have a very strong youths set up there in the Bridge, and I think that the Bridge will be confident enough of coming away with a result.
Munster Junior Shield in for a couple of teams?
There is indeed, and they're both away as well, if I remember rightly. Avenue B are travelling to Maru. I wouldn't know too much about Maru. Avenue B are not the team that they were a couple of years ago, so you'd imagine that will be a difficult enough tie for them. Shannon Town B are also away. They're down in Tipperary playing Mullinahone. Shannontown B are a side made up of quite a number of young players. Mullinahone have been there or thereabouts in the Munster Shield for a couple of seasons now. And this is a very competitive competition. So you'd have to imagine that maybe Mullinahone might win that, but maybe Avenue B might be able to get a result in Murroe.
Brilliant. Well, in the Maloney Hardware Premier Division then, as we mentioned already, Newmarket are away on provincial action. So both Bridge United and Avenue have home games. They'll be looking to keep the pressure on at the top, swallow up the points and put the games in hand element back on Newmarket. Bridge United versus Lifford and Avenue versus Ennisdons.
Yes, indeed. It's a great chance for Avenue, I think, to get back on track, because they will have been extremely disappointed to have been beaten last Sunday, and to particularly how they fell to late goals from the Bridge. So the word is that Dons have lost one or two players. So I think that Avenue will win this with a little bit to spare. There's no doubt they'll be under pressure to get this game out of the way quickly and not let it go near the end. Bridge United then, they're at home to Lifford. Lifford are also struggling very near the end of the table, and the Bridge will really, their confidence will have to be very high, I would think. So they'll feel that they can add another 3 points and put themselves maybe in front of Tulla, who don't have a game on Sunday.
And then at the other end of the table, Kilrush Rangers and Fairgreen Celtic, massive game for both.
It is indeed. Now, Fairgreen have lost a couple of players, I gather, in the last few weeks. And Kilrush look to have a fairly strong enough squad, but they're struggling to put results together. I think this could be a great chance for them to pick up the 3 points and suddenly make the teams that are above them a little bit get nervous.
Yeah, all those games have an 11 o'clock start, and as ever come with a health and a weather warning, so keep an eye on the Clare soccer social medias for updates on that. Just run us through then, Jim, from the first to the third.
In the first division then, Derek, we have 3 games. Fernand Celtic play Shannon Olympic. Now, Shannon Olympic are on quite a good roll at the moment, and last Sunday they came from 2 goals down to win by 3-2. So I think they're quite capable of taking care of Fernand Celtic. Bunratty play Moher. Bunratty had a good win last weekend, but Moher must have been disappointed to have lost in Shannon to Hibs. So I think that Moher will be very keen to bounce back, particularly if they have aspirations to be promoted. So I think they'll win that. And then Shannon Hibs, who had a good win last weekend, play Connolly. I think Connolly are struggling big time, and I think Hibs will take the points there and keep themselves in the promotion spot. There are 2 games then, Derek, in the Brian Pine second division. Ryan Rovers are at home to Sporting Ennisdiamond. Ryan are finding the going difficult this season. Sporting are beginning to get some results together, and I think they should win that and pick up the 3 points. Ennisdons B are another side that are finding the going tough. They're at home to Cool FC. Now, Cool are near the top of that table, and I think Cool will win that there to keep themselves in touch of promotion to get to the first division. In the third division then, we have 3 games, Derek. Shannontown C are playing Bridge Celtic. I think Bridge Celtic should be able to win that, while Hermitage B are at home to Avenue C. This is a local derby in Ennis. Maybe a draw there. There doesn't seem to be much between the sides in the league table anyway, so we'll go for that there to be a draw. And Shannon Hibsby are at home to Bridge United C. Shannon Hibsby should have, in my opinion, that little bit of extra experience to win that there. There are 2 games then, Derek, in the Clare Women's League. Moher Celtic are at home to Hermitage. I think Moher Celtic, who are doing very well, while Hermitage are also playing quite well, but I think Moher, with home advantage, should win that. While Ennisdons, who are also doing well in the women's game, are at home to Bridge United, and I'd give them the nod, the home advantage, to win that there as well, Derek.
Thanks for that, Jim, and we will bring you a roundup of those games on Sunday evening here on Clare FM. Time now for Greyhound Focus with Alan Troy.
Good evening and welcome to the first Greyhound Focus of 2026. The honour of winning the opening contest for 2026 at Galway Greyhound Stadium went to Clare Castle's John Maloney with Gimme That, who made all the running from her track 3 berth to score by 7 lengths in 29.82. This was a first career success for this daughter of Linson Bucko and For One Moment. It was a fruitful evening for the Burn Park Kennels from Kilmahil when they recorded a kennel double with Burn Parc Chiosiog and Burn Park Class respectively. Recording career win number 7 and his 4th in a row, Chiosiog eased victory in the featured A2 contest of the evening in 29-10. He's the son of Ballymac Chiosiog and Burn Park Blossom. Burn Park Class, a daughter of Grangeview 10 and Burn Park Willow, notched her 3rd career success in 29-38. Both are owned by Maria Brown. And 2 Clare greyhounds had a ding-dong battle in an A4 contest with Lissatuk Pearl just outgunning the K Lynch from Quinn owned Cragatasca Black. Owned by Seamus McMahon from Clare, Lissatuk Pearl won her 5th career race in 29-46. She's a homebred daughter of Ballymac Chiosiog and Lissatuk Dolly. And Miss Ella Malone from Innisdiamond was in the winner's enclosure with That's My Honey, who had a commanding 8.5 lengths victory in 29-10. A daughter of Ballymac Anton and Hollywell Honey, this was career win number 7. And from Limerick Greyhound Stadium, recent Clare-owned winners include Little Comrades Red Bud and Aqua Magnolia for Tulla's Michael and Donica McNamara. Bred by Dermana Bucco and Rockalong Aqua, Red Bud recorded his 6th career win in 29-31, and it was career win number 5 for Aqua Magnolia in a time of 29-58. And a date for your diary, as we are approaching the Centenary National Coursing Meeting at Powerstown Park in Clonmel, on Sunday evening, the 25th of January from 7 p.m, Ciaran's Bar in Innis will host the 2026 National Coursing Meeting Preview Night, featuring interviews and betting prices with some of the best-known characters from the local greyhound fraternity of Clare and Galway. A great night of crack, guest interviews and spot prizes are on offer. So that is 7 p.m, Sunday the 25th, Ciaran's Bar Innis, a night not to be missed. That's all for this week, folks. Slán agus Bennett.
Alan, thanks very much indeed for that. A special preview to come next week also of this year's 100th National Coursing Meeting in Clonmel. So more of that here on Sideline View next Friday evening, including details as well of a brilliant preview planned at the great Ciaran Brown's Bar right here in Innis. So do stay tuned for that. But we're out of time here on the show this week. Busy weekend ahead, so keep it tuned to us here. The West Wind is up next. Enjoy the rest of your Friday evening.